Hello and welcome to Washington Exec's video series. I'm Amanda Ziadeh with Washington Exec, and joining me today is John Felker, president of Morse Alpha Associates. Thank you so much for joining me today, John.
Great to be here, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, John, I understand you recently joined industry after a long and impressive career in government, heavily focused on cybersecurity, intelligence, and operations, having served in the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, the National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center, and so on. So I want to start by asking first about cyber talent. I know that's a focus area of yours right now, workforce improvement and developing a cyber workforce. So can you briefly describe the challenges that are caused by certain restrictions when hiring under Title V in the cyber talent management system?
Yeah, so Title V, as you know, is the basically the civil service law. And civil service law has grown over a period of time, at least in my experience. And there are a number of caveats and things that you have to do, ostensibly to make the hiring process fair. You know, if you think back on the genesis of the civil service system, it was meant to help the federal workforce become more professional, and to eliminate a lot of the cronyism and so on and so forth that was going on at the time. But my personal opinion is that that evolved over time to become somewhat ridiculous in terms of the restrictions and the things that you can do, particularly when you're trying to move fast and be nimble with the workforce, which is absolutely one of the requirements that I think we have as a government and as a nation for our cyber workforce. So, you know, the process of qualifying a resume that has to go through 65 different steps to get qualified is absurd. I mean, I can recall sending a resume to be qualified for a direct hire. In the cyber workforce in 2210s, DHS has direct hire authority, so you can hire people directly. And it was sent back to me with a bunch of circles and question marks on it. The people who were reviewing the resume didn't even know what cyber requirements were. So CISSP was circled, question mark, and this person came back as unqualified. So that kind of crap has to stop. And secondly, I think from a hiring process, we have to get out of this mindset that everything requires a degree. There are plenty of people out there who learned how to do cyber in the military that don't have a degree. There are plenty of people out there who learned how to do cyber on their own. And don't have a degree. There still has to be a process to test them to make sure that they know and can do what they say they can do. But I think we need to get a little bit more creative and a little bit more speedy when it comes to hiring our cyber workforce in particular. Now it's probably 2 years ago now, DHS in combination with some other folks started looking at a cyber talent management system, which would do some of the things that I described. It would not necessarily bind you to having a degree. It would not necessarily require you to have a ticket of some kind, a certificate of some kind. It was proposed to be based on prove it to me, show me that you can do the work. And then we'll get you into a process where we can hire at a much more rapid pace. That was supposed to have happened in the fall of 2019, and it still isn't in place. I don't know why. I know that there are some people who probably have better information than I do, but my sense is that they're trying to make it too rule bound and too particular to get what they wanted out of it, which is a quality workforce that they can bring on board quickly.
All right, gotcha. So considering these restrictions and are delaying the workforce improvements like you just mentioned, what do you recommend, or how can these processes move faster?
Well, so one of the things that we piloted when I was at the NCIC was a process where we would test those folks that had their resumes qualified. So we would put out a job announcement, and let's say, for example, we get 1,000 resumes. So we have two problems there. We got 1,000 resumes, which is a good problem to have, but when you look at the hiring folks, the hiring managers in particular, they're generally the technical folks that are leading these organizations that they're trying to fill these empty spots. And so they don't have the time to go through 1,000 resumes because they still have a job to do. They still have a mission to do. And so what we did is we piloted an effort to say, okay, these are the 1,000 resumes we got qualified from OPM. We sent them an email with a link in it, and the link was a test. Okay, show me what's in your resume, prove that you can do it. And the idea was that it was going to scale probably 2 or 3 times to get 1,000 down to a manageable number, say less than 50. By having people put their hands on a keyboard and prove that they can do the things that we asked them to do. That was fairly successful, and I know that there are a number of commercial entities that were doing that as well, and proved very successful at that.
All right, I see. So I understand that the Cyber Solarium Commission is another focus area of yours, and these relate. So can you give us a brief overview of the commission and how the workforce improvement plays a role in its implementation?
Well, so the Solarium Commission was an outstanding effort. I think the folks that were on the commission did a really good job of looking at the broad aspects of all the things that we need as a nation from a cyber perspective. And I think they did a really good job of sort of laying out the 6 pillars of things that need to be either changed or upgraded or improved or however you want to characterize it. They did a good job of that. The workforce element fits in almost each of the 6 pillars that they laid out. We have to develop, and we have to nurture a workforce throughout that's going to be able to do the things that the commission talked about in their report. We talk all the time about a lack of cyber workforce. Well, it's true. There are some other nuanced kind of issues with the workforce. For example, there's plenty of workforce and not very many vacancies in the mid to high range sort of skill levels, if you will. There are not many openings there. The problem is that there aren't many people to fill, or there's less people to fill those openings, and they do other things. The other challenge is that at the bottom end of the scale, there aren't a lot of entry positions. At least in my experience. There may be in some places, military being one of them, but so the workforce kind of balance has to be worked out. And then over time, I think what we need to do, and I think the commission said this as well, is that we need to do some pretty significant improvements in STEM education across the board to start getting kids in school early, focusing on some of the thinking skills and the technical skills that will help them succeed as they work into a cyber workforce.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this topic and this area is obviously only going to get more important in the future. So
no doubt about it. And here's the other thing too. I mean, people often lose sight of this idea that, okay, well, how do we retain the workforce? Now, how do you keep what you have?
Right.
And in some cases, people do a really good job of that. One of the things that we tried to do in CISA was to get really focused on a couple of things particularly with our hands-on keyboard folks, right? Training on a regular basis. And by the way, training in this area is not cheap.
Right.
So, you've got to put some money against it. Development, which is more than training. Development is opportunities to do different, more complex, more leadership challenge, more things within the broader workforce. So that people have an opportunity to grow in their workforce, and to grow in a career if they choose to make it that. One of the things that we should be thinking about too is how do we set up a structure that allows a government cyber person to work in government, out of government, in government, out of government, move back and forth.
Right.
Because I think there's a significant number of benefits that accrue when you do that. Not only do you have opportunities to look at the world in a different way, but you have different perspective on what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And you might have a more senior opportunity too to go out to the industry and then come back into government. We used to tell the folks that were really top performers in CISA, look, I know you're leaving. We're sad to see you go. But remember this, you can always come back. You can always call us and we'll figure out where to get you back in here. I know that you're going out here to improve your life, to improve your career, to improve your skills, all those things. But remember, you've performed well here. We'd like you to come back after you get those experiences. You can't always pay them what they'd like, but a lot of people aren't in it for the money. A lot of people are in it for the mission.
Absolutely. And training must be continuous at this point, right? With the pace of technology and the evolving threats. I mean, that is
yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. There's got to be it's almost constant. Right. And I think that in some cases there are places where they're doing a really good job of lining that up, getting the steps in place to look after that. In fact, CISA has started a program with the Chief Learning Officer's office, a fellow called Keith Alterman. They're really looking at that in a big way. How do we fund this properly? How do we set up a structure so that we have almost a career path for developing folks to grow into different positions if they choose to do that? And we also need to remember that some people don't want to grow up to be an SES. Some people just want to put their hands on the keyboard and fight the bad guys all day long. So why wouldn't we let them do that too? That there's a balance there that we need to create.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing these insights with me today. This is obviously an ongoing conversation, so I appreciate your time, and hopefully we can catch up with you soon.
Yeah, my pleasure, Amanda. Thanks very much, and I appreciate you having me.
Of course.